Welcome to the Supplement Engineer Podcast. My name is Robert Chinetsky. Today, we have the great fortune of being rejoined by my man, James Gracely, president of Beverage at Ignite with their ZRO performance line of energy drinks. Welcome back, my man. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother, man. I appreciate you coming or responding to some emails and text messages. I've been following you for a while, and I appreciate good feedback, whether or not it's what I want to hear. In this case, it is what I want to hear because I watched your podcast or your YouTube yesterday with your wife, who is a mess, by the way. She's fantastic.
She is a hot mess and a pleasure and joy to be around.
She is the ultimate balance to you.
Absolutely. I have very, very even keel, and she is the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And somehow it works really, really well.
Fair enough.
So, man, like as you mentioned, we live in a digital age, and we are constantly bombarded by text messages, emails, phone calls, DMs, all of this other stuff, all these things vying for our attention. And, you can get bogged down in it. But there are certain individuals in this industry, the sports nutrition industry, that when I see on my phone, I get a smile on my face. And whenever your name pops up on my phone or in my inbox or something, I immediately I feel happy, and it's always a pleasure. It's uplifting to get to talk to you.
Thank
you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
I try to make an effort, and I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. There's obviously a lot of bad media going out right now. Hey, look at that. There's obviously a lot of bad media around, and there's always, because Dan is such a polarizing figure, right? It doesn't matter. I had a friend call me the other day, because everybody, if you're our age, everybody follows Barstool, and like, oh my God, Barstool hates Dan Bilzerian. I'm like, no, they don't. They love Dan because it drives clicks. No matter what it is, it drives clicks. So I'm always fighting that narrative, but I try to, even moving over to this ostentatious, this outlandish personality, even help where I came from, with the OWalk, with an outlandish personality, very polarizing. I'm with you. If I remain this even keeled, treat everybody fairly as possible, and lead with the best face moving forward for the brand, you find that people like yourself will respond well to that, clearly. I try to treat everybody the same. It doesn't matter what your title is to me. And I do this with my guys all the time. It's like, hey, they'll introduce me as their boss. I'm like, please don't do that, man. We work together. Everything is a team here. And if you look at my emails, and this will sound self-serving, I hate saying it. If you look at all my emails, like if I type "I" too many times in an email, I'll go back in and change it to "we."
Impressive. I would think you would find it. I'm pretty sure you won't find most people, at least at the executive or corporate level, or the higher up level within the companies as you are, that would take that upon themselves to do that. So, I mean, I think that speaks to your character first and foremost.
I appreciate that. Well, you remember you see me at trade shows, man. I was always there a day early, helping set up the booth, helping tear down the booth. I mean, again, no one does this in a silo, man. And I know there's some brands out there that feels like the people up top had driven the brand to the point that it's at now. But no, it's always a team that gets you there. And anyone that says they did it on their own is just flat lying to you.
Well put, man. So, as you mentioned yesterday, you were kind enough to send us a 4-flavor variety pack of the new ZRO Performance Beverages, which y'all killed the flavors. You made me a believer in Blue Raz finally. I don't think I have ever really enjoyed a Blue Raz flavor. That was one of the first ones, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the podcast. I mean, I've told people before, it's no secret that I hate Blue Raspberry with a passion. That was actually enjoyable, and it's better on the aftertaste than the initial taste. I don't know how in the world that's possible. I don't know what kind of flavoring wizardry y'all did there.
I paid a lot more attention to formulation and formulating than maybe they presumed I was. When I was building this, and again, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination, any room I walk into the smartest person, I want to lead with that. But if I walk into any room and I'm the smartest person, I leave. Like, I want to learn from people. And even when people think I'm not paying attention, I am. So I was paying attention to every nuance, and there was a lot I learned from Bag and VPX, a lot of what not to do as well. But that's any growing brand. I mean, there's always the good and the bad, and you piece together what you can and what you cannot. And formulating was one of those things, given that I have a big sports nutrition background. I've always been an ingredient nerd. I've always tried to stick with things that are efficacious. whenever possible when we had the conversation in the past. That's why I was hell bent on putting a formula out there that was not a proprietary blend. People are tired of not knowing what's in their body, what they're putting in their bodies,
Exactly.
and they want to know what they're getting. Now, again, I know we have this argument with another formulator in the industry. He's always like proprietary blends are a way I can protect my intellectual property. And even if you're showing all the ingredients on your can, you're less likely, I'm less likely to lie on my can if I'm telling you what's in it. And not to say proprietary blends are the devil, but more often than not, you're just not getting enough of anything to show a real difference. But no, I was paying a lot more attention to the back office or the back end of a beverage entity, more so than maybe they even thought it was.
Yeah. So I guess let's walk us through kind of the genesis of the Zero Performance Drink. I mean, were you in on the ground level, or had they already started to kind of tinker with this, and then you
No.
joined them with it, or like were you kind of like forging this
So
from the beginnings?
when I left VPX last August, I came to Ignite to manage the CBD division, oddly enough. And when I came on board, I had one eye trained on the THC division. And
Hmm.
the irony to all this is I've never smoked weed a day in my life.
Hmm.
But I get it. Like I get the practical applications, the medical application moving forward of THC. And eventually the FDA and the government's going to get out of their own way. And it's going to be, I mean, hell, it was an essential business during lockdown times.
Right.
And in some states, you still got people doing time for simple possession. So it's a matter of time before that paradigm shift. So that was my thought process when I came on board. About a month or two in, the idea was pitched to the current president at that time of a beverage entity. So from the inception, we built this beverage thing from the ground up.
Outstanding. And how did y'all do? All right, so let's go into the flavors then. So I guess what made you want to hone in on the alpha GPC, the cholinergic pathway, more so than I
Yeah.
guess tyrosine and dopamine? I mean, obviously you've got the 250 milligrams of caffeine in there, which is going to increase mood, motivation, focus. Also stimulates some
Mhm.
dopamine release. You've got
Yeah.
250 milligrams also of L-tyrosine to support that
Yep.
the dopamine pathway. I guess why let it lead with the alpha GPC side? Is that maybe something just personally you like cholinergics more than dopaminergic ingredients, or did you find consumers tended to want more of that, or was there a gap in the current
Well,
beverage market?
but between us ingredient nerds, it's up for debate which is the better pathway.
Hmm.
The public at large, when you're looking at just simple nootropics, I tried to go with what had the most studies on out there. It's like if you're looking at stimulants, caffeine is the most studied stimulant.
Right.
If you're looking for muscle building, creatine is the most studied muscle builder or strength builder rather. If you're looking for nootropics across the board, alpha GPC has the most data. It's been the longest studied and has the most proven data to back it up.
Hmm.
And there's a couple others on the market now. They're doing relatively well. But if I wanted to put something out there and I continue to stand behind this, I want to put things into the marketplace that are efficacious and that I can give you verifiable data that it's going to be effective.
Hmm.
And anywhere from 150 to 300 is efficacious when you're looking at alpha GPC. I wanted to go to the high end of that.
Hmm.
People obviously drinking more than one of these a day. I'm drinking close to five. Um, but I was like that with Bang too.
Yeah.
I was hedging closer toward 200 milligrams of caffeine.
Hmm.
Some of the team was hedging toward 300. I kind of met them in the middle for that middle ground. But what I wanted to push even more so was the natural caffeine.
Hmm.
The more studies that come out recently, natural caffeine burns more slowly. So for I'm talking to buyers, and buyers aren't as up to date on a lot of this as most of us are. So the way I relate to them, if you're looking for something that's sustainable, something that's time release, something that's not going to give you the big up, big down that synthetic does, that's why we chose the natural caffeine route. And L-tyrosine, to your point, is also an added nootropic. However, more so it aids in kind of balancing like a blood pressure.
Hmm.
So any natural caffeine, synthetic caffeine, you're elevating blood pressure one way or another anytime you're elevating as a stimulant.
Right.
Just trying to get that balancing act.
Outstanding. Was there any thought, I guess, and I don't even know if this ingredient would be allowed in functional foods, functional beverages, huperzine A to kind of complement the activities of alpha GPC? And I mean, it's really
It's
easy to go overboard with that ingredient, so I can
right.
understand.
That was it. Huperzine was something I looked at early. Huperzine was hard to flavor, for lack of a better way of explaining it.
Hmm.
To the degree that we wanted to use it. And again, the idea was to give you items that were efficacious.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, I could sprinkle huperzine in there,
Right.
tell you it's in there, and keep it moving. But I didn't want to do that with this brand. What I will give Dan a lot of credit for when I was sitting with him early is that he's I'm gonna say ingredient nerd, but he's at least educated enough to know what he's putting in his body. I mean, obviously, he has a team of people that give him his nutrition daily, so they keep him up to date on whatever the current things that are working best for his body, whatever the new data is to support what new supplements or new ingredients are in the pipeline. So he's always been involved in picking my brain. Or even suggesting some things down the line that he'd like to see in future formulas.
Hmm.
So I couldn't necessarily go in with the typical CEO that doesn't have any clue about the sports nutrition realm or nutrition realm, and hey, I'm going to give you 100 milligrams of this and call it a nootropic, and they're going to believe me. No, I can come to him and say I'm using alpha GPC, and he goes, well, how much are you going to use?
Nice, nice, nice. I'm sure that's probably refreshing. I mean, you've been in the industry long enough to where you've dealt with company owners that are in the know, company owners that aren't in the know. So it's kind of it's got to be refreshing to be able to speak with somebody on that's more or less on the same level with you when it comes to
Yeah.
product
Well,
formulation.
that's one thing I'll always relay back to VPX and Bang. Like Jack is a mad scientist. I mean, that guy
Mhm.
knows ingredients. He's been doing it for ages. He's got a chemistry background. And I would always poke Jack all the time with like, if there's anybody right now that can do an amino RTD, it'd be you, because aminos are obviously notoriously hard to flavor.
Right.
And that man's figured out flavoring. I'll give him that. Now I've heard your a couple of your podcasts. There's a couple of flavors recently that aren't as good as others, but shit, when you're 30 plus flavors in, you're
Right.
gonna
Yeah.
miss something.
Yeah. I mean, you're still batting way above 500 and even
Oh,
probably
oh my God,
750.
absolutely, yeah.
So what? How did y'all decide which flavors to launch with? Are these like four of your
It's
flavors that are
it
close
is,
to your heart, or?
and I'm with you. I'm not a Blue Ras fan. However, if you're looking at the data, if you're looking at IRI, Nielsen, some sort of a berry, razzleberry, blue raspberry is always in the top five or top 10. Um, peach, another like crisp, springish flavor, top five, top 10. The only two that were deviations, if you will, are the Tart Breaker and the passion fruit.
Mhm.
The passion fruit is my quirky flavor. It's the flavor. It's a little outside the box. Doesn't necessarily fit in the traditional mold of the energy drinks you're usually seeing. So something a little different for the consumer to take a look at. And then Tart Breaker is the millennial flavor, man. If you're looking for one of those rainbow unicorns or the lychee mango or whatever, I forgot what they're calling it for rain these days. If you're looking for something that's a little outside the box, it's going to really tickle that 20 to 30-year-old palate. That's why Tarbreaker was chosen.
That I mean, you kind of just stuck a knife in the middle of my chest and grinded it because you said that's the millennial flavor, and I'm thinking, oh my
Hey,
god, I've always like
it's
lemon lime tart flavors or like tropical flavors, and the fact that you just said, well, this is the one we're trying to make for the 20-year-olds, I'm thinking, oh man.
I always let people drink it first, and that's why I was glad you guys had a chance to try it. And then you actually hit the nail on the head. So I'm not burying the lead here. I let them try, and they kind of give me that look like when I'm talking to these distributor buyers or retail buyers. They taste it and kind of like, oh my god, it's really familiar. I'm like, it's Sweet Tarts, it's Smarties. It's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Got a little cherry base to it, a little tart, a little sweet. So at the minute I tell them, they're like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what it is." My flavor house did a great job helping us hone in the flavors. It's really just going in and sitting with these guys for a day, and you're just sipping all day long. Tweak this, tweak that, add this sweetener to allude to. I'm sorry, Sandy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yep.
What she was alluding to, how it kind of lingers on the back of your palate. And it's just
Mhm.
it's the sweetener trick. that you kind of manipulate when you're sitting there. So I'm sitting there, I'm tasting, I'm like, it's really good on the front end, but I kind of wanted to stick around a little bit longer. And then we add a little bit here, a little bit there. Not going to give away too many trade secrets,
Right.
To make that flavor really pop, but not overdo the flavor either, which you guys really jumped all over, that I really appreciated. I wanted to do something with these flavors. It was entirely a deviation of what's currently on the market, where you've got really strong, really bold flavors, and that's what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
So I want to do something that's a little outside the box.
With and I don't know how much detail you can get in this, because I don't want, like you said, I don't want you to give away, all of the secrets, but do you adjust carbonation levels based on the flavor, or is that something that's consistent across the line to where they all have the same kind of pop and fizzle?
You can change it per flavor. And to answer your question, yes, I've done that with a couple of flavors. With the current iteration, it came out a little lower than I wanted. We have 2 more runs coming here shortly where I will tweak them per flavor and have set those in. But that's another thing. I want it to be a complete deviation than what's currently on the market. There's some of these drinks that are so carbonated, you drink 1 or 2, you get heartburn for 3 hours. I wanted to get away from that. Something that wasn't overdone in the flavors, something that wasn't going to get that big burning sensation in the back of your throat. I wanted something really crisp, really refreshing, even down to the packaging. I wanted something to be as welcoming as humanly possible. The original packaging was very dark, really black with a white goat skull. And I looked at it and I'm like, it's on brand, no question, if you look at Dan and his fan base. But it's not welcoming, it's not inviting. And the 2 things you don't do in consumer packaged goods is you don't put a dead animal and you don't do black packaging. And I'm already behind the 8 ball once. So
Right.
let's not do it twice. So that's when we pivoted to the white packaging. And then if you see it, and my team has done a really great job of sharing, some of the distribution wins or retail wins with our distribution partners. If you see that white can amongst all the other colors on the shelf, it really pops off the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're looking for in this industry is trial. And once you get trial, it's got to taste good, obviously. But that white can, I really feel like pops off the shelf so much when you're walking past it. I might give that a try.
Yeah, the flavors themselves, whoever wrote the product copy, and I said this yesterday on the live that we were doing, is that whoever y'all got to write the product copy, if that was you or somebody else on the team, they did a damn good job of describing the flavors. It's very
marketing hit me. The marketing team, they're awesome. They're a group of young individuals that they're really big go-getters, but they're not familiar with this market space or the space, because we started as a THC company. Mm-hmm. Evolved to CBD. Now if you're looking at some of the press and the media, we're a completely different company than even the ones that reflect last year's financials. We're a beverage company now, almost fully. Now again, we still have a THC division, we still have a CBD division, but we're putting all our eggs in this beverage thing. ADD took over, so we're also doing a vodka. We're doing a tequila.
I was going to ask you about that in a little bit. Yeah, that was going to be my next lead in.
But what they sent me was, we need something to put in these influencer boxes that we're going to send out. Will you write us a copy? And I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, all right, fine. And then I started writing it, and it got cornier and cornier every time I wrote another line. And I'm like, screw it, let's buy in. And then I have a philosophy degree, so I've written my fair share of papers, but my spelling sucks. My grammar sucks. So when I finish writing anything, I hand it to my wife, and she's my editor. I'm like, please read this thing. And she read it, and she goes, oh my God, this thing is so cheesy. And I'm like, it's what it's supposed to be.
That's marketing copy or ad copy.
Yeah. So I sent over the marketing, and they read it, and I went, I was hesitant to send it. And they're like, you wrote this? I'm like, yeah. I'm not a complete meatball.
Oh man, so that's great. It's so what I'm curious about now is, all right, so you helped build a behemoth in the beverage industry, and now you're
fun to be a part of that.
Yeah, and you are now with the scrappy underdog that's climbing the ranks, trying to topple the monsters at the top. What in your previous experience is helping you to throttle and build this brand?
Oh man, and this is where, even in some of the in between time, moving from Bang to here, and then not necessarily being in the beverage space yet with us, because it was a thought process early on. We
Mhm.
really didn't really jumpstart this beverage thing until January of this year. So there was about 3 or 4 month time frame there where I would have other brands that are currently in the marketplace that I talk to a lot ask me for, consulting, for lack of a better way of putting it. But I'm not one. I never ask for compensation. I just like to help good people.
Mhm.
So there's a couple brands out there that are doing relatively well, with connections I had the wherewithal and the ability to meet in the 4 years I was at VPX. I was extraordinarily blessed, to be a part of the juggernaut. Absolutely. I mean, the growth rate of that thing is insane, and it may never be seen again.
Right.
But to meet a lot of key account buyers, to help build out that distribution network, to help sell into military, to help grow into international business. So I was extraordinarily blessed and given the opportunity with Bang to really expand that portfolio. Jesus Christ, the number of people I know in this space, given the platform I came from,
Right.
I really try to oversell not oversell to sell myself as much as possible to earn and gain those relationships and those trusts, so when it came time to do something like this, I can say my team is also great too. I got three guys on my team right now that also know every key account buyer in this country.
Yeah.
So relying on those relationships that I built with Bang, with those distributors, and with those key account buyers, to say, hey man, I've seen the juggernaut built. I seen what it takes. I know the platform by which it was sprung off of. And if you're looking for anybody that can use a similar trajectory, if you will, that Bang took, it would be this. I mean, given Dan and his platform, right? I mean, that guy's
Right.
got almost 40 million followers of his own, let alone the network of influencers that are just buddies of his,
Mhm.
that are easily leverageable. Again, given what you saw Bang do with a similar platform,
Yeah.
we could just as easily use here.
Gotcha. Now I know y'all are in Vitamin Shop.
Yep.
And that gives you a fairly wide network of distribution and access to people when they're on the go. Do you find that brick and mortar retail is still as strong, or is it more moving more onto direct to consumer sales? How does the energy drink landscape fit
Um,
into
I,
current
I,
customer demands?
yeah, I think because drinks are so heavy, you have to have those realtor, Jesus, those partners, those brick and mortar partners,
Hmm.
those large and small format partners. You still have the ability to sell, B2C. It's not nearly as strong because again, it's cost prohibitive because it's so heavy.
Yeah.
We do have a national partner on site now, or that can help us really develop that B2C market
Hmm.
and really kind of over deliver, from that ambassador program that we're looking to kind of utilize, to try to drive more web sales. But I never want to cannibalize, what I'm doing in retail.
Hmm.
Those partners trusted in you to bring the brand in. So we'll always charge a little bit more. And there's some things we can do on the back end, giving us a direct sale. But brick and mortar is still holding on. When it comes to food and beverage,
Hmm.
they're still doing relatively well, not nearly what it should be, obviously, given the climate, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What I do notice is I think Shop, was not, I guess, as over leveraged as some of the other major retailers in the country.
Hmm.
So they've maintained, some market share without dipping too much. There's some other realtors. I'm sorry, realtors, retailers. Jesus, retailers out there, that aren't doing as well, which I feel badly for.
Right. With selecting which partners to work with, and this is something I ask this with other brand owners of sports nutrition companies and whatnot, and it's something that I'm not really sure of because I don't have a marketing background. I'm an engineer, so I'm a math and science nerd. And
Yeah,
for my thing is that if I have a product, I would want to get it in everybody's hands as much as possible, get it to as many distributors, retailers, and all of that. But I've heard the
yeah.
argument, well, we want to be perceived as something that's not a Walmart brand where you can't just get us anywhere. We want to be premium, something extra special. So when y'all are deciding which networks to go into, how do y'all, I guess, balance being accessible enough to individuals while maintaining and not, essentially, for lack of a better word, whoring yourselves out and becoming like a bargain brand.
Right. No, and that was a task early on to try to maintain with Bang, where the WalMarts of the world and the Dollar Generals of the world saw the brand expanding the way it was, and they wanted a piece. And early on, it was like, oh, thank you.
Hmm.
So early in a brand's growth, I would say you want to try to remain that premium brand. You want to relay I'm gonna say lavish lifestyle, or this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you do want to be remain above the fray. You don't want to ever devalue the category, which is what I try to stay away from when I'm giving them my price point. And I say, well, you're not quite in line with this one. You're much more expensive than this one. And I can look back and go, that one's killing your margins. And this one's trying to play in the space I'm not trying to play in.
Hmm.
So we try to navigate around those early, and not rub them the wrong way, because eventually you're going to go that route, the
Yeah.
Costco's of the world and what have you. Given how big the brand is and can be, like everybody at this point at least knows who Dan is.
Yeah.
So when I'm going to any of these key account buyers, I sometimes I tiptoe around it, depending on the gender of the buyer.
Right.
Sometimes I say it's not a good thing if you know who Dan is, because it's easier to pitch to you who he is versus seeing his exploits and go, no, it's not all that.
Right.
And he's certainly someone who understands the platform he's been given to and plays it up.
Like most people
As
do.
one
If
would.
you're
Yep.
a public figure, there's part of it. There's an act. I mean, there's a morsel of truth and everything, but I mean, a lot of
Yep.
there's a larger than life aspect to everything. That's in the social
Absolutely.
media and the
So
public
I've had
landscape.
the ability to sit in a couple of meetings with him.
Hmm.
And it's really refreshing to see someone in that position ask the right questions and then essentially get out of the way when it wasn't his realm of expertise.
Hmm.
And he's always asking questions, and much like, because I mean now I'm working with a publicly traded company versus something that was privately held like Bang.
Right.
So even something down to crowdsourcing information and making decisions collectively, not this overarching CEO who's going to throw the hammer down when he's ready to make his choices. We don't have that kind of positioning here.
Hmm.
Obviously, he's CEO of the company and he wants a say and has a say, but it's not the defining answer. I mean, most board calls we have, he is asking the right questions, and even when he's asking the right questions, and if they do get combative, I mean, he goes, look, I just want you to know, like, I just want to ask questions. Like, ultimately, we're going to make this decision as a group.
Yeah. How do you go about, I guess, building the brand and making it bigger? And I guess that might seem like a very broad and generic question, but I mean,
Yeah.
you got Bang to a certain status, and now you're starting off with a brand new product, and you're trying to build that up. So, what steps do you take, I guess, to kind of undermine, not undermine, but take away the stock on some of the other like
Right.
the
Yeah.
big three, like the Monsters, the Reigns, the Bang.
Yeah. Yeah.
What steps can you take, and does the company take to start increasing the exposure, increasing accessibility, and
Yeah.
chipping away at the market and bringing it over to your side?
Yeah. Well, it's all going to be socially driven at this point, right? I mean, that's where a lot of decision making is being made. Not that it's all being, not that all of the purchasing power is being led digitally these days. Well, COVID kind of proved that wrong, but before COVID, retail wasn't taking as big or as hard a beating as they had in the past couple of years.
Mhm.
Now, people are still getting all their information online through their phones, through social, through friends. But a lot of the transactions were actually moving back toward retail on some level. Now, Amazon's always going to be Amazon. Digital is always going to be digital, but it wasn't nearly as egregious. The imbalance wasn't as bad there toward the end, but obviously COVID is COVID.
Mhm.
So coming out this thing, honestly, it may go back toward the other way. I mean, I think we've all been cooped up for so long now. We may sort of look for some of that more social interaction and get back out into the public, sphere to really, buy some things or shop local or shop some of these small businesses again.
Mhm.
But we're going to drive a lot of, as much as humanly possible, drive a lot of information digitally through social, working with retail partners, and a lot of that is it's I have a handful of marketing or trade marketing ideas in place, but every distributor I talk to, every retailer that we speak with, I try to relay the same message to everybody. It's like, I've got ideas of what I'd like to do, but what I want to rely on is what you're seeing in your area. Like what's working here in North Carolina may not work in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
So I want to rely heavily on those guys. And what do you need to see from me to make my brand more prevalent in your stores? And try to get back to this be a partner thing. I know a lot of these larger brands that you spoke of, they have the biggest stick in the room and they swing it around and whoever's in the way gets hit. I go to all our retail partners and tell them the same thing. Like, you tell me how you want to receive product. I'll make that work and I'll have those tough conversations with distributors or vice versa. What retailers do you want to sell to? I'll ask to the distributors, which ones you not want to, which ones are more of a pain in the butt, and I'll figure out another route to market for them. I'm not here to dictate to you how you receive my product. I just want it in your, I just want it in your hands, so we can sell as much as possible and make this a partnership. Because if it's a partnership, then you want to see it grow. If I'm dictating terms to you, you're going to punt. It's human nature.
Right.
Yeah.
Did y'all, since you brought up COVID and all the crap that is brought with it, did y'all run into any production issues, manufacturing shortfalls, shipping concerns, or anything like that?
No, I mean, I think because our production runs are so small right now, that we haven't had that problem. Um, we have some really good partnerships from distribution. We have really good partnerships from logistics, procurement, and again, our runs have not been what they were with Bang, right? I mean, Jesus, that juggernaut. There were so many cans secured at the beginning of every year, and you were still scrambling for cans this time of year.
Yeah.
And I feel like it happens every single time this year. You start hearing from the manufacturers that, oh, there's aluminum shortage. I'm like, of course there is. There's aluminum shortage every time this time of year because they're trying to scramble and get as many sales as possible. Now this year, again, because of COVID, because of some of the trade restrictions with China, where a lot of aluminum comes from, now it may be more true this year than most. But we haven't really been affected with it, just given that our volumes aren't there yet. Maybe next year sometime it could be. Who knows?
Okay. I guess all the beverage companies basically draw from the same, I mean, it's the same 16-ounce can. So is everybody's got basically the same can? It's not, I mean, outside of Red Bulls, which are like the little tiny 8-ounce cans or whatever.
Yeah, but you're still basically sourcing packaging from the same companies. Our Mexico formula is going to be in a smaller can. Oddly enough, those smaller cans are harder to come by. Red Bull buys so much of that inventory that it's hard to get your hands on them. The reason we went with a smaller can with Mexico is, I know you guys were alluding to yesterday, caffeine restrictions. Caffeine restrictions are prominent in many other countries. So it's I'm going to mix them up. It's one or the other. It's either 50 milligrams per 100 ml or 100 milligrams per 50 ml. I think it's the latter, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to go through my emails. But we bring the caffeine count down, and when you're dealing with Latin American countries, you want a less expensive formula. So a smaller can kind of leans into that. So we're sourcing some of those as well. But yeah, those smaller cans are actually harder to come by right now.
Are y'all doing the same 4 flavors for the beyond stateside exports, or do you tweak, I guess, the flavor profiles and flavor offerings in general to the countries to which those cans are going?
I think there will be a couple, and I've already got flavors in mind for Canada. I've got flavors in mind for Mexico. Given that Dan is a global brand, right? I mean, a lot of his following is in the Middle East, given his poker exploits, where there's also caffeine restrictions there and some limitations on ingredients. Some of the flavor profiles will stay the same. But there are some countries where a specific flavor, like Mexico loves mango flavors. So mango may be an offering here in the States before long because I really love that damn drink. So they sent me samples not too long ago, and I tried. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is good. So Mexico will have a flavor that's specific for its country, and I'd like to do that around the world because there's always different palettes and different flavor profiles. We have partners with our Australian entity where we look to launch next, where we're probably going to end up taking the U.S. formula and sending it to Australia. But we were working for a formula. We were working on a formula that was specific to Australia.
Mhm.
But the passion flavor, all the Australian guys that I've given that to remind them of a drink or a soda that they drank when they were growing up that they hadn't gotten their hands on in years.
Very cool.
And this is after the fact that already come up with that drink before then, and they loved it. So I mean, I guess to answer your question, that may be one that was specific for Australia, even though it wasn't intended that way.
Mhm. Yeah, the passion fruit flavor, that was, I mean, I've tried other passion fruit like supplements
Yep.
before, and they always just taste kind
Yeah.
of like nothing. But yeah, whatever y'all the putting a little dash of pineapple in there and whatever the other flavors
Mhm.
that y'all mixed in, it works really really well to give
Yep.
this clean, refreshing, light flavor that's really really enjoyable.
It's
Um,
my mixer.
Mixer with what is the question?
That oh well, I work for a publicly traded company now. I cannot disclose that.
Fair enough, fair enough. We'll save that for the after hours edition of
There you go.
the podcast. Um, all right, so let's transition. So, before we started recording this, you mentioned that you've got your hands, in addition to being president of Beverage, you're doing a bunch of other things behind the
Oh
scenes
yeah.
with Ignite. So I guess give us a little bit of an insight into what a typical day in the life of
Oh
James Gracely
Jesus.
is.
Luckily, I don't sleep much. I don't ever have. I know we got the conversation on former podcasts where we talked. I mean, I might sleep
Yeah.
4 or 5 hours a night. I was blessed in that manner growing up. That's what helped me drive a lot of international businesses because I'm up when a lot of those guys are up anyway.
Yeah.
So typically, I'm in bed around 2. I'm up by 7 at the latest. My kids typically have me up, and I try to get a workout in early. But I'm waking up to a handful of emails. Excuse me. When I wake up to a handful of emails, I just start firing them off. Right now, to go back to answer, um, I've somehow re-inherited the CBD division. We also have nicotine. We've gotten away from tobacco-derived nicotine because there's a flavor ban put on that in the U.S.
Hmm.
And gone to a synthetic blend, which is just as efficacious and good as the tobacco. And if anyone's paid attention to the nicotine market over the last 50 years, there's a lot of money there.
Oh yeah.
We jumped in, and the joke is internally, if you smoke it or drink it, we're probably going to make it. We are the Sin Lifestyle brand. So my first email of every day is, well, my first planned email every day is just kind of hit my team up.
Hmm.
Hey, give me a quick rundown of what you're working on today. I think we're all living off of Microsoft Teams these days. My ask to the team is just CC or just copy me on all the meetings, and I'll try to get to the ones I get to and the ones I can't. Just to listen in, and not that I don't trust them. I just want to know what's going on versus not
Hmm.
having to. I feel like if you treat people like children, they'll act like children. So I give my guys as much rope as humanly possible because it's what I'd want.
Hmm.
Until you give me a reason not to, and then in which case, then maybe we make another decision. So I try to make that known. Like, just put me on these meetings. Just I want to listen in, and sometimes it's good to have another ear, and I can make decisions a lot of them normally can't. So
Hmm.
if there's an ask, I can chime in real quick and either agree to it or put a kibosh on it pretty quick.
Right.
Um, we have a leadership team meeting with all of the Ignite leadership. If you're looking at, excuse me, if you're looking at Ignite as a whole, Ignite International is kind of the umbrella over all the other entities.
Yeah.
So beverage, nicotine, CBD, THC, international business. They're all wings, if you will, underneath Ignite International.
Hmm.
Ignite International is basically in every business interest under Dan Bilzerian. So the leadership team for Ignite International gets together once a day, and we kind of hash out any questions that we may have or need, and
Hmm.
anything we need from an ops or a procurement or sales, or just get it all out of the way. That typically takes about an hour. But man, key account buyers, distributor buyers, international business, trying to get Mexico up and going,
Hmm.
Canada up and going. Australia's chugging along right now, and then we have a UK partner and an EU partner. We're trying to get up to speed as well. So there's a lot filtered in, and there's my dogs. There's a lot filtered in throughout the day. It takes up a lot of the day, and the irony is you're talking to the leadership team on a daily basis. I've been joking, and maybe you're seeing a lot of this as well, and not so much lately because we're starting to open up a little bit as the rest of the country is. But
Yeah.
I've never been busier in my life, and never feel like I've gotten less done.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've
Um,
said that to Sandy on many of occasions where I feel like
yeah,
I'm running around the entire day, figuratively running around, but like
yeah,
answering
yeah.
a bunch of emails or doing like pecking away on content or something one or other. But at the end of the day, you sit back and you try to think, what the hell did I do today? But somehow you're exhausted mentally, and you don't even know what in the world you
Right.
did.
Yeah. What in the hell happened? Where'd my day go? No,
Exactly.
100%. That's my latest tongue in cheek comment. I need 15 extra minutes on every hour, please, for the love of God. Whoever can make that work, please make that work.
Just cut from
But
the sleep, man. Just pound a few more energy drinks, and you'll be fine.
well, the sleep's not the problem. That's I mean, that's when I catch up on my busy work is late at night. The irony in the busy work, and this is what I did with Bang, and that was Jack Olock was notorious for 2 a.m. scuds. And typically I would call him in the middle of the night. I mean, hell, he's up. I'm like, let's go figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But now, since I'm in front of my computer screen all day long, I'm not traveling as much as I used to. I mean, last year, I think I flew 130,000 miles last year. Um, this year, I was already over 40 when COVID hit, and that was early February. Again, dealing with some international partners, what have you.
Yeah.
Given that screeched to a halt, um, you know, I would typically leave those later hours for my busy work.
Hmm.
I don't need it anymore. So, 11, 12, 1, when I'm still up and doing nothing. I used to run to the gym, then gyms were closed because I wanted to flip channels. My son, who's 6, started playing Fortnite not long ago, and I saw a meme early on in the lockdown, and it said,
Hmm.
"Move over, young kids. The original gamers are back." So there was a group of boys upstairs, and we've been extraordinarily blessed to live in the neighborhood we live in. But go back, we've been extraordinarily blessed that we live in a neighborhood where there's like 20 kids that are all my kids' ages,
Hmm.
and they all congregate here.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I can close my office doors, and they, for the most part, leave me alone because they're terrified of me. And by the way, I'm 6'6" and not 6'3".
Yeah,
Um,
I knew you were. Yeah, I knew you were some obscenely tall. Tall height.
yeah, but a lot leaner than the last time you saw me. I think the last time you saw me, I was about 290. Now I'm down to about 225.
Well, last time
Um,
we had talked, I mean, I remember seeing your face. I mean, last time in person, you might have been that big, but when we did the podcast early in 2019,
oh yeah,
you
yeah,
were on. You had your face had already shrunk down a lot because you
yeah.
were doing. I think you were doing intermittent fasting and either low carb or keto at the time.
It was keto at the time. Now it's more carnivore.
Hmm.
All I care about is meat. And my face had gotten way too skinny. And if it was early 20, no, later that year, it's like a hit in the face. I took a softball to the grill. And
Wow.
and we're like, "You got a glove?" And I'm like, "Dude, I can catch." I was running the bases, and some dude who couldn't have been 20 feet from me turns and throws the ball to no one.
Oh,
It
geez.
hit me square in the mouth. It pushed these two teeth back, completely separated all of this. So
Oh.
and I was already down the path of losing a ton of weight at that point. And at that point, I really wasn't trying. It was just kind of a byproduct of the things I was eating.
Hmm.
But I was already down to 225, 220 then, and already getting too lean. And then I went on a strict all liquid diet for 45 days because I couldn't put any pressure after the surgery.
Right.
And I got down to 204.
Damn,
And
at
I was like,
6'6", man,
no,
that's like string bean.
yeah. I was like, this sucks. So I learned how to swallow eggs and ground beef.
There you go.
And still hover between 215 and 220 for a while. And then what I can appreciate COVID for is putting another 10 pounds back on, because even 220, 225 is too lean for a guy my height.
Yeah.
It just looks awkward as shit. But I do feel exponentially better. I'll get back to my ADD took over.
Mhm.
So the beginning of the lockdown, pretty much all my busy work's caught up on throughout the day because I'm in front of my computer screen all day.
Mhm.
So late at night, when I would typically go back to the gym, if I was nothing else to do, the gyms were closed. My son and some of his buddies were upstairs playing Fortnite, and I heard them up there raising hell, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? So I went and started watching them play Fortnite. And I
Mhm.
went, this can't be that hard. So I played, and I sucked. And all the kids in the neighborhood made fun of me. Now, background growing up, I was always really athletic, played a
Hmm.
handful of college sports, and the only reason I ever picked up another sport is because someone was better than me at that sport, and it drove me fucking nuts.
Yeah.
So I got better at it. So I said, "All right, clowns, watch this." I am now embarrassingly good at Fortnite, to the point I probably should not continue to lead with that. Um, I will say the 12-year-old in Bulgaria who I've been killing for the last 6 weeks has gotten has gotten a reprieve over the last month because things are finally starting to open back up.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of a bonding moment for my son because we'll play like games together.
Hmm.
I've even debated buying a Switch to take with me on the run so we can play together as a family.
Yeah.
But he brings me all these updates. I'm like, son, he's like, did you do it? And I'm like, I haven't played in like 3 weeks, man. But it was just as easy for me to put it down as it was to pick it up, just given there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm absurdly good at Fortnite for no reason whatsoever.
Hey, it's new hobbies that you develop in when the whole country goes into lockdown. It's a good
No,
thing. It's a new skill.
absolutely.
It's a new skill.
Well, it's a new skill, and it was funny because now I got all the kids, and now I'm the coolest kid in the neighborhood, by the way. And they go home. I served, and a lot of the skill sets are the same. You know, staying out of kill boxes, line of sight, setting people up, or it's really a game of chess. So yes, it's a kid's game. And what I do appreciate about the game versus like Call of Duty, it's not nearly as gory. And if you kill somebody, the guy just disappears.
Right.
So I'm okay with my kid playing it. But a lot of military principles or a lot of war principles can be translated. So now I got all these kids going home and reciting these military terms to their parents. Like, what are you teaching my kids? I'm like, I don't know. I'm teaching them future service, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. You send them home with a copy of Sun Tzu's Art of War next time they're at the house.
Absolutely. I love it. Absolutely.
Oh man. Where was I going with that? That was we need. Did you? All right. So when you were growing up, did you play any other kind of video games like the old school Nintendo, Super Nintendo stuff? Like we need to
Nah,
bring those games back out and like show the kids this is what
no,
real video games were.
mostly it was only sports games growing up.
Yeah. Tecmo Bowl.
Resident Evil was fun when it was out for a while.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed was similar gameplay to Resident
Mhm.
Evil, so I played it. But no, mostly sports games, and that was really about it for the most part.
Gotcha. Let's so did you build out a home gym or did you already have a home gym? I thought you had
Mm,
previously you had a squat rack at the
I
house.
did sold it all because I if I'm in my environment, I'm
Hmm.
typically my kids are around or I'm just distracted.
Yeah.
Um, I've always done better going somewhere where I can go and just put my headphones on, put my hoodie on, and go do work.
Hmm.
But again, when everything shut down, we were kind of screwed. I had a friend here
Right.
locally who worked for an equipment company, and
Hmm.
I did brought another squat rack in, brought in a sissy squat machine or apparatus rather,
Right.
some box squats and bumper plates, and we figured it out. About 3 months ago, earlier than they probably should have, but a couple of smaller gyms started to open back up around the North Carolina area. So I was just
Hmm.
going there for a while, and over the last couple of weeks, North Carolina has opened up gyms again at a smaller capacity.
Yeah.
And for the most part, to allude to that point, I think so many people at this point have home gyms that the traffic at some of the gyms I've gone into recently just is not much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was one demographic that I don't really want to delve into this too much, but they was got it's criminal what they did to like the gym scene in general and
Oh
so
my
many of the
God,
other
yes.
businesses.
Well, it's and to allude to a partner and kind of compound on or expound on that, Europa Sports.
Hmm.
Europa Sports is the country's largest sports nutrition distributor. They were heavily leveraged in specialty, heavily leveraged in gyms, and again, not to delve into the politics of everything or the demise of that industry. That was a big portion of their business, and a lot of that was mom and pop business. When people
Right.
think of gyms, they always think of the Golds of the world or the Lifetime Fitness of the world, and those just are not the bulk of the gym ownerships in the country.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, a lot of those guys didn't make it out. And in turn, that all falls uphill, rolls uphill rather, to those partners where they're just not. I feel badly, not only for those retail partners, but for the distributor partners who no longer not only don't have that business any longer, but will never see that money in the product they shipped out.
Right.
It was just really bad for everybody. But no, it's almost criminal what has happened, specifically to the gym channel in the country. Given that it's one of the, I'm not say few things, but one of the things in this country that you can do to actually get your immune system up and to better your own health was
Exactly.
closed.
Right. Yeah, where the
So
healthiest people
yeah,
are, we're going to prevent people from going there. Made
yeah,
absolutely no sense to me.
yeah, yeah.
It's not me.
And
Yeah,
I'm not here to shame anyone in their fitness or what have you, but there is such a positive correlation with this thing and the lack of overall health and fitness.
bingo.
I think, moreover, not only did it expose a lot of big business for not being able to make it through some tough times, even though they've shown record profits for decades, it also exposed how unhealthy this country has been for a very long time, and we've all known it.
Hmm.
But I think I'm hoping that this is a wake up call for all of us, because it looks like, for the most part, and the data does seem to vet this out, that if you're relatively healthy, this doesn't harm you all that much. That's not to take away from how bad this thing can be for people who are not healthy.
Right.
But there are ways to kind of help mitigate that.
Yeah, and I wish the narrative would be to start pushing more of let's get everybody healthy, not live in fear
Absolutely,
and cower and do all that stuff. So
absolutely.
I
No,
think
I agree 100%.
hindsight's 2020. I know that, but I mean, we knew early on that what was going on, and just the more that data
Yeah,
comes out, it just compounds on the fact that this messaging and the tactics used was completely,
yeah,
they shit the bed
yeah,
from square one. Anyway,
yeah. Well, and I think,
moving on to some.
yeah, go. Let's get away from that one. People, we will start getting political.
Yeah, I was gonna say moving on to some fun stuff. There, you mentioned there's a vodka that's coming out with
Oh yeah,
Ignite. So y'all are getting into you've got all the poisons covered. You've got caffeine, you've got the CBD, you've got now we're gonna get started getting
THC,
into some libation.
nicotine. Yep.
So what are y'all gonna go full bore and like build a distillery and have like vodka? What all liquors are y'all planning to do? Are you
Um,
involved in any of like the distillation processing and deciding what proof to make the liquors and all of those?
No, I mean, well, we don't own the distilleries. No, we do have some really good partners. I was extraordinarily blessed again to be able to play in that space for a short time, and then brought in someone to run that category specifically. I am a huge tequila fan. I only drink tequila. My friends call me bougie as shit, but I like good tequila.
Yeah.
If you bring me over some poor tequila, I don't want it. I had a
No
buddy of
Pepe
mine
Lopez for
bring.
you then.
I wasn't going to call out any brands because I'm in the
Oh, well,
space
that's
now.
the brand that my aunt always gave me when we were at her house. We tried
No,
it one time. And this was early, like when I was
uh-huh.
early 20s. So she tried that, and I was just, whew, man, it was that stuff burned.
Yeah. Well, that's the. I think growing up, and because when I tell people I love tequila, and that's the first reaction, like, "Ooh, really?" And I'm like, if you get good tequila, if you get, we'll say Don Julio's 1942. Like, and it's not extraordinary, but it's good. If you get some añejo or some extra añejo or some mezcal and pour it over some ice, maybe some club soda, it's actually really good. But if you get some really bad tequila and you've had some bad tequila experiences, I can see the trepidation 100% because I've been there and I know the difference between what a really good tequila is and what a really bad tequila is. I think we all know what a bad tequila is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, once you get a good one, it's a much different story. Vodka, I'm not much of a vodka drinker, but the vodka is
Mhm.
really good. I mean, there were some flavor profiles we were looking to shoot for, given again Dan's fan base and follower base. Looking at some of the data on the sales data of what's selling really well,
Mhm.
specific again to his fan base, and try to mimic. I mean, imitation sincerest form of flattery,
Right.
right? To come up with some things that come as close as possible to those flavor profiles, and I think we nailed that on the head. The tequila to me is a better story, given the partner that we're using down there, and we haven't launched tequila yet. So I'm going to hold that until we get some more or some more sales decks out there.
Mhm.
But vodka's already in trade, and vodka's doing relatively well. But when you're looking at spirits as a whole, Spirits could be anywhere from tequila to vodka to you name a spirit. They're built on premise. They're built in bars. They're built in clubs,
Yep.
and unfortunately, all that's been shut down. And we were already, for lack of a better term, half pregnant with everything that we were doing when COVID hit. So we couldn't really put the brakes on it. We just had to, trudge forward and get the best partnerships possible. We've done a really good job of bringing in leadership partners that have built really good relationships with major distributors around the country. And again, Dan and the brand is always a calling card. So there's a handful of very large distribution partners, both in NA and non-alcohol and spirits category, that have shown interest in the brand that we're currently pitching to now. They could be a game changer overnight for us. At that point, to allude back to a conversation earlier, procurement may be a problem then, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Gotcha. Are y'all going to expand the whole line, or like eventually do you foresee doing something like gin and bourbon, rum, and all of those as well? Or are you going to pretty much keep it to the tequila and vodkas?
Well, I think in the spirits realm, if you're looking just for dedicated spirits, I think vodka and tequila will be where we pause for now. I think you've seen that seltzer and malt category explode so much over the last year or two, given Truly and White Claw's success.
Right.
That we will probably dabble in that space too. Given that, again, anything that kind of leans heavily into our wheelhouse or our customer base probably makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And if we go to the pool in our neighborhood on a Saturday and Sunday, there are just as many men drinking these things as women. And again, to go back to the procurement process, that's where a lot of aluminum's going now too. I mean, that seltzer and malt beverage category has taken, I think, like a 30 or 35% hit out of beer last year. Like, it was insane how much market share it stole from beer. And that's why you're seeing Bud jump in, you're seeing Corona jump in, you're seeing Miller jump in. So it's an expanding category. I think if we do decide to do it, we'll do the seltzer route, not malt route, and we'll use our own tequila. I'm sorry, vodka.
But yeah. And Sandy's older sister really likes the Trulies. My sister likes White Claws. I've tried them, and they kind of just taste a little bit like carbonated water.
Yeah.
I mean, the alcohol proof is really low. I'm a bourbon man, so I mean, I like 100 proof bourbons is where I am. 90, I don't want any 80 proof bourbons. I like the stronger side of stuff. But what do you think is it? I mean, why? And you just mentioned a lot of guys are starting to like the White Claws, and I've always kind of had this. This is going to come out sexist, but it's the chick drink. So if I see something with like a giant, neon colored straw, I'm going to think it's a girly drink. But what do you think is that that are drawing guys to it and away from beer?
I think we're all hedging toward things that we perceive as healthier. Those things are light in carbs. They're light in calories. I think we have a huge, and I think it goes back to maybe the boon that we've seen in energy or just carbonated beverages as a whole. If you're giving somebody something else that's carbonated, something that tastes pretty good, something that's going to give them a little buzz throughout the day, and they can drink 10 of those things versus, we'll unpack that a little better. If you're at a bar for 4 hours, you're not going to sip on the same drink for 4 hours.
Nope.
If you drink bourbon for 4 straight hours,
I'm going to be upside down into the hospital.
You're crawling out of that joint. However, if you're handing somebody 12 of these drinks and they can constantly have something in their hands,
right,
they're not going to be nearly as drunk, probably equally as refreshed. That, to me, that may be the mindset. To be quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure. But it's taken such a hit out of that category. I don't know how you don't hop in it. And again, I know it's an oversaturated category, much like energy at this point, right? But you want to maximize on the consumer base that you have their ear, and energy, spirits, the seltzers, malts. Like, if those don't fit hand and foot into everything we're doing as a brand, I don't know what does.
Yeah. I guess, and I'm not sure how close they are actually to, but I remember one of the first things I ever remember, even like my first alcoholic beverage I ever tried, I think was something like a Smirnoff. So it wasn't a Zima,
Yeah.
but it was a Smirnoff, and
Yeah. Same.
that's kind of what these things remind me of. It's
Absolutely.
almost like the Smirnoff, but somehow
Uh-huh.
like 15 years later, 10, 15 years later,
Yep.
they've rebirthed and gotten like super
Yep.
cool all of a sudden. When before it
Well,
was
Smirnoff has one too, right? Smirnoff
yeah,
has a seltzer too now. Yeah.
right.
So yeah, absolutely. They probably just dusted off the old formula and went, here you go, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're cool again. Here you go.
Yeah.
Everything
No,
what's old is new.
100%.
But yeah, I think the
So
the flavors that y'all got, if y'all could translate those flavors from the Zero Performance line into that, I think they would translate exceptionally well, especially the
that's the plan.
Passion and the Tart Breaker. Those two, Peach too. I mean, they're all three super light, super refreshing. Those would play really well, and obviously you trade the caffeine for some alcohol,
Right.
because you can't combine caffeine and alcohol, at least
No.
not in an RTD. You can't do
No,
that.
no,
So.
not at all. Well, there's some people that still do it, and I don't know how they're getting away with it, but
Yeah,
we flirted with that idea as well.
gotcha. Are there any new flavors in the lineup for the Zero Performance for the coming year?
Man, I've got 9 ready to go. Now, what I'd like to do, let me rephrase. I've got 9 ready to go. It's going to come across as a Me Too play, but I've been thinking about this for more than 3 years.
Mhm.
When we started co-packing early with Dr. Pepper Keurig, now I'm about to get Bang and Pepsi an idea. Again, he's welcome. I asked Jack early, I'm like, and this is back before A-Shock. And now I'm giving A-Shock an idea, so they're welcome too. Why don't you partner with Dr. Pepper and make a Dr. Pepper Bang? Like, it doesn't make sense to me why you don't do this.
Right.
And he just wouldn't pull the trigger. I don't know what it was, just wouldn't pull the trigger. Now they can do a Mountain Dew Bang. See, they're welcome. What I want to do is, and Ghost beat me to it, assholes. I have a couple of partnerships or royalty deals in the works that I'd like to kick the tires on.
Mhm.
That would be partnerships with brands that we grew up enjoying as children. Outside of that, I've got 9 others that are already formulated and ready to go. Some of them, and again, what I wanted to allude to is, I like that you pick out that what I wanted to do, at least with the original iteration, is to be such a deviation than what's currently the lion's share of the market. Do something that's not necessarily overbearing with the flavor. Again, natural caffeine, not being overly carbonated. I think Celsius has done a really good job of carving out that space.
Mhm.
Not doing something that's overly flavored, overly carbonated. Some of the other flavors coming down the pipeline, maybe a little more punch and flavor. Do something a little different when moving down the line. And again, try to leverage some of these partnerships. What I would really want to do is, given Dan's massive following, and to really engage Dan, is to crowdsource some of those. Either have him, go to that 50 million followers and say, hey, what do you want to see for a launch?
Yeah.
Or taking the handful of flavors that we already have ready and kind of putting them up to vote and
Mhm.
let them kind of decide what the next flavors will be too. So again, just trying to give ownership. Again, I want a partnership across the board. I want a partnership with the consumers. I want a partnership with distributors. I want a partnership with retailers. I want everybody to kind of have a piece of this thing, so everybody kind of feels like it's their own.
Gotcha. How does sample that reminds me, how do samples actually work with these? So, I mean, do they just send you like a miniature can that's carbonated? Because obviously with
No, it's
dietary supplements, and we're getting
yeah,
flavorings from the manufacturers, they send us a little packet of powder in a little
yeah.
Ziploc bag or something. But
No,
how does it work with
it's a
beverages?
tiny glass bottle, the little 10-ounce glass bottle that
Okay.
they typically ship me, and it takes a handful of days. And that's how they get shipped to me. Before COVID hit, I had the ability to go to the flavor houses and
Right.
sit down there with those guys and just kind of tweak them as we go.
Mhm.
It's a much faster, much more efficient approach
Yeah.
than doing it the way we're currently doing it, but still effective either way.
Okay. Do you look at energy drinks as competing with things like pre-workouts and nootropics? Do you look at it as a completely different space? Are the same
Mm,
people buying pre-workouts as and energy drinks and are using them in the same format, or do they use them for two disparate purposes?
I think there's an intermingling, no question.
Mhm.
I am not, and helped consult with a couple of brands on the pre-workout. To me, stem pre-workouts are ridiculous. They're irrelevant at this point. People are drinking energy drinks all day long anyway. What do you need more stimulants for? What you're looking for primarily, and anyone who understands this Bluetooth won't work. Um, what we're looking for primarily from a pre-workout standpoint is something with pump, something for focus, something to help fuel you through the workout, something to help keep those muscles going. I've actually got to the point where I make my own pre-workout because again, I still fast.
Mhm.
And I was trying to find something that kept me in a fasted state, even though I took a pre-workout. And what I'm looking for when I'm mixing these ingredients is again a pump, a focus, maybe some beta alanine to activate some muscle and move around some of the lactic acid.
Mhm.
Um, that's what I'm looking for in a pre-workout. But no, people, to answer your question, people are absolutely using them both. I mean, using something highly caffeinated for a pre-workout seems counterintuitive to me. But if that's what gets you motivated to work out, I don't really give a shit, man. Just get in the gym and start working, brother. But no, dude, I think these things become so mainstream that they're equal. So people are taking the pre-workout, people are drinking them all day long. I mean, if you're stuck behind a desk like most of us are now, you're looking for something to pull you through the day.
Yeah.
No, my 5 a day habit did not start now. I've been doing that for ages.
Right.
I used to drink 5 bangs a day.
Yeah.
So
Did you notice any drop off since, I mean, that's 50 milligrams per can. So we're, at the end of the day, we're looking at a 250 to 300 milligram difference. Do you notice any dip
right.
in
Not
energy with
really.
lowering your caffeine take or anything like that?
Yeah, not really. And I think I've become, at least externally, so desensitized to caffeine at this point. It doesn't really affect me, too badly one way or another if I'm not drinking one more often than some days another. So when I'm traveling, and I do this when I'm traveling, and this is kind of I was talking to, shoot, I forgot who I was talking to. At any rate, I was drinking a bang, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I helped build this thing. Like, I don't want to see it die. And
Right.
there's still some flavors I really like,
Hmm.
that I haven't had the chance to build myself. And ultimately, I think it's such a different taste, bang, compared to what I'm creating,
Hmm.
that we're creating. Sorry, that it's they can still be appreciated separately. And I have friends at Ray's. Like I
Yeah.
like the Ray sour gummies. Like, I drink that one from time to time. I can't wait to try some of the new Ghost flavors. Even if and to continue to give credit where it's due, even tequila space. Like, I tried the Rocks Tequila Terramana this past weekend.
Hmm.
Holy shit, is it good?
It is good.
So you can still appreciate other people's things and then
Hmm.
and hope they do well,
Yeah.
without pulling credit away from your own brand.
Well
I
put.
try,
Well
I
put.
try, I try, I try to live by this saying. I say this to my kids all the time, and maybe they don't get it yet. Maybe they do. And I say this to everybody that'll listen. If I blow out your candle, it in no way makes mine any brighter. So please stop.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, there's more than enough for everybody, I think, to get their own piece and grow their own success,
Yep.
without, crapping on everybody else's parade,
Yeah.
or, that's
This
what.
this doesn't have to be a zero sum game. We can all win. There's plenty of money out there. There's still plenty of interest. I mean, this category
Exactly.
continues to expand in this rate that's unfathomable, even through this time.
Yeah.
And it's only going to grow from there. I mean, everybody's looking for energy. Everybody's looking for focus throughout the day. And some of the studies I saw that nootropics as a whole look to be a $2 billion industry, by as early as next year. So we can all win here.
Agreed, man. Well, James, this has been a thoroughly enjoyable conversation, as it always is, sir.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you for
So
making the
how
time to
how
come on
how
today.
late was Sandy up last night?
Well, let's see. She crashed. She fell asleep at 9:30,
Oh,
but
good for
then
her.
like both of us woke up at 3 a.m. this morning. We just like tossed and turned in bed
Oh,
for like 2 hours just because we couldn't sleep. And and
right.
I've always had this problem. I get so freaking hot at night, like body temperature wise. I don't know why,
Yeah,
and where just like I'll throw the sheets and the covers off, and I'm still like tossing and turning, trying to
yeah.
get comfortable. And so I've been up since like 3 a.m. this morning. But I mean, that's
Mm,
fine. It wasn't the energy drinks that kept us up. I mean, we both
gotcha.
fell asleep, between 9 and
Yeah,
9:30 like that without a
yeah.
problem. but for whatever reason, she had a lot of stuff at school to get done today, so her brain was a buzz. She had to do all of that. But yeah, no issues falling asleep last night.
The 1,000 milligrams of caffeine. I was actually reading a study not long ago. I remember seeing this on the podcast or your YouTube yesterday. Children, I never suggest this to anybody. A child could consume 1,000 milligrams of caffeine, and as long as there are no other health issues, now they're going to feel like shit, but it won't have any adverse affection or any adverse effects whatsoever. Caffeine's never the culprit. It's always the ancillary issues. It's preterm or pre-existing health issues.
Correct.
And every adverse reaction that I've ever seen, and I've had this conversation with a handful of people who continue to try to harp on this energy drinks are the devil. Caffeine is not. Every adverse reaction you've ever seen to highly caffeinated drinks has always been a mixture of caffeine and sugar.
Right.
So yeah, that was a long way to answer. So I've consumed between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams of caffeine for the past 5 years, and as far as I know, all my values are fine. So
yeah, and you're 100 kilograms, so you said you were 225, so that's right at like 100 kilograms right there.
Yeah.
And that's where all the exercise studies are, between like 3 to 6 to 9 milligrams per kilogram. So if you want to get like those strength and power output studies from caffeine, you would be in an acute setting, you would be perfectly fine and well within the range of taking 600 to 900 milligrams of caffeine.
Absolutely.
Right before you go do some heavy deadlifts or squats.
Yeah. And everything like thermogenesis doesn't really start until a gram to a gram and a half anyway. So if every time I see a thermo pill and I look at the formula, I'm like, this is not going to work unless you're taking 12 of these damn things.
Yeah, man, it's caffeine is wonderful. I don't know if it's a supplement. It's almost a necessity or just a part of life.
Yeah. Who you tell
on some days, but it's good in all of its forms. I like coffee. I like them in energy drinks. I like them in pre-workouts. It makes the day go by fine. If I don't have caffeine on some days, I'm fine. I don't get really bad headaches. I'm fortunate in that regard.
Yeah.
But everything.
What kind of coffee do you like?
Dark roast coffee, and give me some dark roasts. Ethiopian varieties I find have a little bit too much kind of like spice and floral notes going on in there. There's a little bit too much extra in there. I like dark, thick, rich tasting coffees.
With that said, I've got more samples to send you.
Ooh. Now I'm intrigued.
I told you, man, if you drink it or smoke it, we're gonna make it.
Hell yeah, man. That sounds awesome. Well then, James, man, thank you again. And this is the part where you can shamelessly promote the brand and plug anything and everything you want to about it.
I like to see things grow organically. So I'm just interested in letting people see, your review, letting more people get their review. I mean, I've sent it to a handful of people, and there's some people that didn't like it as much, which I'm fine with. I think they were waiting for me to get offended. I'm like, I really don't. I mean, I've long learned that if you try to make everybody happy, you make no one happy. And with the brand, again, I was trying to do something different than what's currently on the market, and I'm hoping it plays.
Yeah, I think it's a success. I really enjoyed the 4 flavors. Sandy did as well. You made me a believer in Blue Raz, and that is no small feat in and of itself, sir. So,
awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you again for your time, James. And
thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Have a great week, man.
You too, bud.
Bye.
Bye.